Thank you everyone for joining the Brain 202, our special holiday themed Brain webinar. And as I mentioned earlier, we're focusing on some more advanced features of the Brain application. If you do have a question throughout today's webinar, please feel free to write that into the GoToMeeting question panel. My friend and colleague Chase Ingersoll will be answering questions on the Brain on today's webinar's question panel. So type your question in, and a few of those questions he'll send back to me at the end of the webinar, and we'll sample them and review them live, how those features work in the Brain. Also, I want to highlight that I am actually using the Brain 12 today. The Brain 12 is in beta right now, but you can download the Brain 12 from our website. You can install the Brain 11 and the Brain 12 on the same machine and only run one at a time. But the Brain 12 is available for everyone. It is beta software, so if you're not comfortable with beta software, go ahead and stick to the Brain 11. But the Brain 12 is very stable. We're very happy with it and excited about launching it. And I'm going to be sharing some V12 specific features today. I'll highlight those so that you know, oh, wait, I don't have this feature on my end. You'll know that maybe you're running version 11, I'm on 12. And so it's a feature you could look forward to when you do decide to upgrade. And again, any questions you have about the differences between 11 and 12, just let Chase know in the question panel and we'll be sure to address those. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm in an area of my brain called Christmas gifts. And the very first thing that I want to highlight right now is a feature that we have in the brain called the comma trick. So I've got an area of the brain where I'm just keeping track of my own personal interests. This is my real brain. You're getting some insight into how I think and the things that I think about today. But it's not about me. I'm going to try and keep it focused all on features of the application. So here I've got an area of the brain, my interests, whether it's finances, politics, travel, hobbies, and so forth. I've got different areas of my brain for all those different topics. And I have a holiday area. I like to keep track of everything that's happening for my kids' birthdays or plans that we have for the 4th of July or Thanksgiving. And of course, I have an area called Christmas. Now, my family celebrates, we've got a bit of a mix. We celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. So you might see some, different types of subject matters. That's not the point. The point is just simply the holidays and the festiveness of this time of year and things that we like to do and how I stay organized throughout that this time period. So I've got an area in my brain under my Christmas thought called gifts. But you'll notice when I mouse over the thought called gifts, the full thought name is gifts, comma, Christmas. This is the comma trick. It's a feature in the Brain application that allows for context-sensitive naming. And what that means is I have other thoughts in my brain called gifts, birthday gifts, graduation gifts, retirement gifts, things of that nature. So this is a very old brain. I've had it for a long time. I've got thousands of thoughts. I've got many different thoughts called gifts, and I had to find a way to keep track of that. So I do that personally with the comma trick. And let me show you how that works. If I'm creating a new thought, another thing that I do around the holiday time is a little activity called the polar plunge. Some friends, we all get together and we go hop in a lake at noon on New Year's Day, actually. So this could go under New Year's. I'm just going to keep it under Christmas for now. And because the planning has to start now. So I'll just start with polar plunge. Polar plunge planning. Now, if I hit the enter key, I would just create a new thought. I am going to add a comma behind that thought. So when I hit enter, it appends the parent name at the end of the thought. So I end up with a thought called Polar Plunge Planning Christmas. So over the Christmas break or holidays, the days that we have off, I'll be planning for this so that we're ready for New Year's. And all of my thoughts and content and information, whether it's an invitation, list of who's getting invited, how we're gonna stay socially responsible in this type of climate we have, everyone's staying 6 feet apart and so forth, and following the rules and regulations of our town on get-togethers, we definitely want to check all those boxes. So a lot of information will go into this particular planning. But there, as you can see, I've added my comma, and it appends the parent name. So when I do a search in the future, polar plunge for the Christmas planning. So I see the full thought name. So another thing that you can do is you can put the comma at the beginning, and also if you forget to use the comma. So let's say I've got different dinners that are going on with different family members. Those aren't dinners this year. Those are just visits. We're going to drive by and wave hello and talk from a distance. That's how things are working. So let's just call them family visits. And I want it to be under the category of Christmas. This isn't a summer family visit or something of that nature. So family visit. And I hit the enter key. Oops, I forgot to add the comma. So for context sensitive naming to take effect, I don't need to delete this thought. Maybe I've already added attachments and content. I can just go back to this thought and click to open up the thought properties display. We're going to be spending a lot of time in the thought properties display today on these different thoughts. But instead of deleting and starting over so that I add that comma, I simply type in the parent thought name first, Christmas, comma, family visits. And as you can see, when I'm on the Christmas thought, I just see it's in the right context. The brain knows, oh, this is a family visit under the context of Christmas. So I don't need to see the full name there. But when I mouse over, when I run a report or a search, or I'm looking down at thoughts in the past thought list, I'll see the full thought name. So I'll use that comma trick a few more times. I just want to show you how you can set it up, whether it's during the thought creation or after the fact. The comma trick is a great way to add context-sensitive naming, regardless of the brain that you use. I typically use the comma trick for commonly used thought names, invoices, contacts, and billing, so forth for business brains. That comma trick really, really comes into play. So now let's go ahead and take a look at my gifts idea, or thought rather, my gifts area of the brain. And this area of the brain has sort of been a catch-all for all of my ideas that started probably sometime midsummer. I see something that I like. Oh, here's a Mahjong set. My mom and my wife's mom both love playing Mahjong, so thinking of getting them some vintage Mahjong sets. So when I find something I like online, I quickly bring that into the brain. And we'll be doing that in just a bit with the brain box as well. But regardless, I'm left with this cluster of different thoughts. I've got a nice little checklist over on the right of, which items go to which people, what I've purchased so far, what I haven't purchased yet in my checklist, and then this cluster of child thoughts. It's time to start cleaning this up. And so I'm going to use some advanced features of the brain application to add some clarity to all of these thoughts that I'm seeing right now. And the first thing that I'm going to do is start assigning some thought types. Thought types are a really great way to identify visually a thought within the brain, the subject matter or the topic of that thought, but it also gives you reference to what types of thoughts I'm looking at. Because below this Christmas gifts, I've got sort of a collage of different topics. I've got REI, and there's Target. I thought I had some more. Amazon. See, I'm sort of getting lost here in the cluster of thoughts. And I'd like to identify which ones are actual individual gifts and which thoughts are just stores or websites that I go to browse to find gifts that I'll be purchasing for family members. So I have a thought type already called shopping site. And in different areas of my brain, my woodworking, my fishing areas, my cooking areas, I've got sites that I specifically shop at to buy products for that activity. Here, I haven't applied them yet. So let's go ahead and start applying them. And there are different ways that this can happen. I'm going to start with the Amazon. Everybody knows Amazon. It's a great place to go and buy gifts. I'm going to right click on Amazon and select to set the thought type of a shopping site. That's what Amazon is. It's a shopping site where I can find all of my important pretty much everything that I need for gift giving. REI is another one. I'll right click and go up to set the thought type to shopping site. Now notice what just happened. It moved REI over to be right next to Amazon. It's grouping, my brain is grouping similar thought types together. So as I keep going here, I'm gonna add target, right click and make this let's do this a different way. I'm gonna alt click. So alt click on target. I open up that thought properties display that I mentioned. I'll change the thought type to a shopping site. And once again, it moves target over and it groups those thoughts together. Suddenly I'm already having a little bit of clarity in this area of my brain. So I've got all my gifts and my shopping sites and they're grouped accordingly. So I'm not browsing through this large cluster of sites trying to find the correct thought that I'm looking for. There's another one, QVC, that is a shopping site. So I'm gonna set the type there as well. And I think there might be a few more, but I'm not seeing them off the top of my head. We'll find them as we continue clicking and adding new areas. So now I'm going to add another thought type called gifts. So these are, my Colorado hat, that's for my dad. Disney Plus, we're getting a membership for the kids. Vintage motorcycle goggles. My kids, for some reason, are teenagers. They don't ride a motorcycle, but they're interested. So you'll see some goofy things in here. Just disregard that. But regardless, these are gifts. There's two different types of gifts that I have, though, in this cluster. Gifts that I've already purchased and gifts that are just an idea. I might not get them vintage motorcycle goggles. It just came up in a conversation. It was kind of funny and I made a note of it in my brain when I saw some online. So I'm going to make two different subcategories under gifts. First, I'm going to create the new thought type. So a new thought type called gift. And that is a thought type. Now notice thought types in the brain, thought types in the brain have a different border. They have sort of this rounded edge. We're going to be talking about thought types and tags today, but there's always a rounded edge around a type that defines a thought, and a chamfered edge has sort of the corners cut off on a thought tag. We'll be talking about those today as well. So here's my gift thought type, but gift is going to have two different subcategories. Gifts I've purchased and gifts I haven't purchased. So I'm going to click and create a child thought called not purchased gift. I don't need to say gift. It's just simply something that's not purchased. Now, when I created that, it actually created a native thought within the brain. It's not a thought type yet. So I'm going to right click on this thought and change or convert the thought to either a type or a tag. In this case, I want to convert it to a type. And now not purchased is a subcategory of gift. Another way that I can create subcategories or sub-thought types, sub-thought tags, is to go ahead and just create the type. So purchased. And that's a new type. And now I want to make it a child thought, so I give it the parent of gift. And there it is, little circular edges, so I know that's the right one. Double click. And so I have this nice little hierarchy, and I can see in my thought types that I've got two different thought types of gift, purchased and not purchased. I can go one step further and say, all right, a gift that has not been purchased, open up that thought properties display. All of these thought types will appear with sort of a red background, whereas gifts that I have purchased will appear with a sort of green background. So green is go, that's gonna happen. And I can even give an icon. I really love just the visual aspects of assigning icons to thought types. So I'm going to select from the brain's icon library. You can see I was looking for a building recently for an icon. In this case, I'm looking for a gift. Let's see what I have. I've got blue boxes. Maybe I'll do box. So I'm going to look for a box. That's really interesting, a blue app. So let's go into browse. I can sometimes get a little bit, I'm maybe having a little bit too much fun right now. And I'm going to go into technology. I saw those boxes. Those are probably technology. No, I'm not seeing them there. So maybe I'll just do a search for something that's green. So there's a green gift. That's fine. A little purchase of a tree, not purchased. I'll search for something red. Select icon, and I'll look for a red. So whoops, I started searching in the brain. So there's something that's red. I have not yet purchased that. So you can have fun with those icons, use little pictures of, piggy banks or dollar signs, whatever you'd like. But regardless, I've now set up my thought types. It's time to start assigning them. And here's where I'm going to show you another advanced feature of the brain application. I've set up my thought types, and now it's actually we start having a little bit of fun. I can once again my butter oven mitt. I already purchased this for my mom. That's hilarious. I right click and I set the thought type as purchased. But there's a faster way to do this. Rather than one thought at a time, I'm going to look through and find everything that I've already purchased, and I'm going to control click on that thought. So my Disney Plus membership actually already renewed, so the kids will be getting that. This Colorado hat for my dad, again, control click. And my wheel and sprocket gift certificate for the kids. And I'm just browsing through that I did not buy. Nope, I think we're good there. Oh, nope, that's a shop. There it is, Baby Yoda. So I've already purchased the goofy little Baby Yoda. So now I've control clicked on these individual thoughts to add them to the selection box. The selection box only appears when you've control clicked on a thought. If you're on a Mac, you command click to add thoughts to the selection box. There's some more features of the selection box that I'll be sharing with you today. The first is individually selecting thoughts, adding them to the selection box. So I can right click, and in one fell swoop, I can set their thought types as gifts that I have purchased. What are the rest of these? They are gifts that I have not purchased. So I'm going to close that, and I'm going to start control clicking. Now notice I can also control click and drag. So I can drag this entire grouping. I can control click on a gate and select everything and reassign thought types or thought tags, whatever you'd like to do in the selection box. In this case, let's control click everything again to start with a clean slate. So I click on control or press on control on my keyboard. I'll select these. I did see one thing. Where was that? Cabela's. There it is. That's a shop. So one thing that I missed. I'm selecting all of these and right clicking in the selection box, and I'm assigning the thought type to not purchased. And the one remaining thought there that doesn't have a thought type yet is Cabela's sort of fishing and camping gear that I like to buy from there. I right click and I'll set that thought type to, that's one of my shopping sites that I go to. So hopefully, if you recall what our brain looked like before we started, we've got a lot more clarity here. And just in the past 5 to 8 minutes, we've created these thought types. We've assigned the thought types, and suddenly when I come to this area of the brain and I know, gosh, I haven't purchased anything for my brother-in-law yet. I really need to get him that trout fishing net or what have you. I'll go shopping for it on Amazon, or maybe I'll look on Cabela's. I know where to go to. It's these thoughts that appear with the yellow text. Or if I know that I found it earlier in my brain, I can view through, and actually there it is, the trout net. I can alt click and rename that so it's a little bit easier to find, but that is a gift that I have not purchased. And when I do purchase that gift, I can right click and change the thought type. So I set the thought type to something that I have purchased. So I simply add that to my other category, or change the category so it shows up. Now, the advantage of doing that, let me remind you, if I go back and view all of my different thought types, my gifts are grouped together. Notice down here, I like to rebuild old VWs. And so I've got a lot of different projects going on with different VW engines that are being rebuilt. So I've got all of those subcategories under the VW thought type, and gifts that's happening under gifts as well. So in the future, if I just want to see all gift ideas, whether it's something that I've purchased in the past or not in my brain, I can open up a report and I can specify, show me all thought types that are gift, regardless of whether it's purchased or not. there they are in the report. So I can run reports to find all thoughts of a particular type. And there's a lot that you can do in reports to filter out, all thoughts of a particular type that have been modified within a particular time frame or created within a particular time frame. If I just say created within the past day or two, you can see it filters that down. Some of these I added into this brain much, much earlier. Oops, I clicked on Baby Yoda. Sorry about that, Baby Yoda. So let's go ahead now and categorize this or restructure this even further. There's another way that you can categorize thoughts, and that's by making intervening thoughts. So let's say I want to group together all of the gifts that are specifically for my immediate family versus, I don't know if you call it distant family, people not under my roof. And maybe all shopping sites, keep them totally separate. So I have some intervening thoughts. That's another option. If you don't want to mess around with thought types, or you think that thought types are just another, a feature you won't be using, what's another way to clean this up? I can create a sub thought type called shopping sites, or just shopping. And I'll grab Amazon, and notice I can just simply, in my list here, click and drag it over to make it a child thought of my intervening thought, shopping. So now suddenly all those different shopping sites are gone. I've got one thought, so one additional click, and I can get specifically to my shopping sites. So very, very easy to recategorize those just with using basic thoughts as well. So gifts for my family. Another way to do that, my fam, sorry, I always sort of abbreviate the word family there. Let's keep things nice and neat. So I've created a thought, my family. So Christmas gifts for my family. Once again, I'm going to use that control click. So I'm going to control click. Binoculars are for my parents, not under my roof. So I'm looking for my kids' gifts and my wife's gifts. So Mahjong, there's the French oven roaster, vintage looking watch, Jacques Pepin artwork, and motorcycle goggles for the kids, Disney for the kids, and there's Baby Yoda. So these are for specifically family under my roof. I want them all under this my family thought. So I control clicked, added them to the selection box. I navigate to this my family thought, right click, and I select the option link selection, so the selected thoughts as children of my family. So those are all child thoughts underneath my family, but notice, I'm sure you can clearly see, they are still linked up to Christmas gifts. I can now navigate back to Christmas gifts, right click again, so I didn't close my selection box yet, and I unlink the selection. So those have all been moved to the underneath the My Family and unlinked from Christmas gifts. So very, very easy to take a cluster of thoughts and just find a new home, find a new place for those thoughts in your brain to clean things up a bit. And of course, that leaves the rest of these, which are gift ideas for aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, and so forth. I'm going to create a new child thought for, we'll just say outside family. And once again, I'm going to use the control, and I've made these appear in the sibling thought area so I would have them all nicely lined up. And I can control, just click and drag, add them to the selection box, and right click and link selection as children of family. And I am going to hold down, oops, there we go, link as children. Oh, I accidentally closed that, so not a problem. Select them again, go back to Christmas gifts. Now this is why, oh, you just saw something really neat. This is why I always do the connection first, leave those thoughts connected. If I had unlinked these thoughts from Christmas gifts first, and then I accidentally closed the selection box, I would have just created what we call an orphan thought. It's not connected to anything else in the brain if it's not connected. But regardless, I do the linking first, and then I go back and unlink. It's a process that I follow, and it helps me exactly what you're seeing right there. If I make a mistake, I can easily gather up, collect those thoughts in my selection box, go back and unlink selection from Christmas gifts. So look at this. Remember, if you will, what the brain looked like. Here, I'm gonna minimize my notes and just go full screen with the brain and open up. I believe I took a screenshot. I sure hope I did. Oh, I'm not seeing it. I thought I took a screenshot before we started of what my brain looked like, and I don't think that I did. Sorry, I thought I left that on my desktop. But regardless, when we started today's webinar, we had just a cluster of all these different shopping sites and items and things to purchase. And now, as you can see, everything is nicely collected into different categories. And even further, when I look at my family, what have I purchased so far? What have I not purchased? If I go to outside family, I can review the same. And actually, you can also review here my Colorado hat, for example. Just another feature that I do in the brain is I keep track of everything that I'm purchasing. So here you can see the Colorado hat. My dad was born in Colorado, so I'm getting him a knit cap. Ordered it on Amazon. When the order was placed, I've got the tracking number, and I even have the purchase information. So I can, when I get an email that says, save this for your records, they go right into my brain. So I can keep track of if it doesn't show up, I can track it down or tally up how much I've spent on the holidays this year and so forth. So that's a great way to keep things organized, thought tags and intervening thought types. I also want to share with you now another feature, another more advanced feature of the brain. And this isn't specifically about organizing, but it's about keeping your information safe within the brain as well. Now, I don't mind if someone sees, I don't mind even sharing. Yes, I spent $16 on a Colorado hat for my dad. Happy to do so. So that's not information that I need to keep private in any way. But I noticed as I was putting my, this is a purchased item I'm going to look for. As I was putting my brain together today, I noticed there's a couple of thoughts that I came to that have passwords on them. This is one of them. So my Disney Plus is for the kids so that they can watch The Mandalorian. And I keep my passwords in my brain in protected documents. And the brain has a built-in encryption system for file attachments. This is a version 12 feature. So if you're using version 11, you won't have this version yet. Upgrade to 12 and you'll see how this works. So I'm just going to go ahead and use Disney Plus and pretend that I've got a new password for 2021. So I'm going to first create a new attachment, and I like to use the brain's markdown attachments. If you're not familiar with markdown in the brain notes are formatted with markdown.md files. It's a very, very clean, simple, easy way to format text that's much easier to read in place rather than what you would see if you were formatting HTML, for example. Regardless, if you don't know Markdown, you can just simply use the buttons that are available to you in the Notes toolbar. But I'm going to add a new Markdown file, and we'll call this my 2021 account password. Now, so it created a new document. Let's close this. I'm going to close this Markdown attachment. You can see I've got two attachments, my original password document and my new 2021 account password. Nothing there yet. So let's add my password. So login info is matt@brain.com, my email address, and password is, let's do a big one, ABC123. So that's my password. It's very hard to remember. Don't want to lose track of that. I want to keep it, but I want to keep it secure in the brain. That's the key thought. I want to protect this document so that only I can access this if my computer or laptop falls into the wrong hands. I am going to click on the little actions toolbar button for this file attachment. Now, you can do this for a Word document that's attached to a thought in the brain, an Excel spreadsheet, any type of file attachment. I'm going to click and select the option to encrypt. And the brain will ask you for your hint. I'll say the species I studied in college. I'll say in Montana because that's where I went for a semester, and it was the bombus, which is the bumblebee. So not many people know that. Great, I'll save that information and check that off. And that file is now encrypted. Notice what just happened. If you were keeping a close eye, the icon changed. I've got that little sort of padlock. It's a little mini padlock on a document. So when I go to open my 2021 password, I'll be prompted, what is the species I studied? If I type in some gibberish and decrypt, that is the incorrect password. No one can get to that file without the password. That includes anyone that's hacking your machine. If you're syncing your brain to the brain cloud, administrators, well, we can't get to your files anyhow. But regardless, no one can hack their way in without that password. So incredibly, incredibly secure and just a wonderful new feature. And of course, once I do remember what I studied in Montana, Bombus, I'll click and I'll have access to that file. So just a fantastic new advanced feature of the brain to help protect all of your important data. Another thing that I want to share with you now are thought tags. Thought tags, again, another advanced feature of the brain application, one we don't talk about too much in our Brain 101 classes. Thought tags are a really great way to add classifications to individual thoughts or attributes. So for example, I'm going to just navigate quickly back to items that I have not purchased. And let's say that the binoculars for my parents are slowly becoming bird watchers. They've got a really wonderful view out of the back windows of their house. They're becoming bird watchers, but they don't have binoculars. Perfect gift idea. I want to get this for them. I love it. And maybe there's a sale going on. Okay, great. Let's identify now when I, spend some time over the weekend with my wife. All right, what gifts do we have for our family and what gifts do we not have yet? I want to be reminded just in looking over this list I've collected of some of the important things that, that I have to get. I've already gotten my kids a couple of gifts, so I'm not too concerned about whether or not they get the motorcycle goggles or not. So binoculars, I still need to make that purchase. I'm going to click to open up the Thought Properties display. And this is my list of available tags. And these are the tags, like I said, in my real brain that I really use. And this is sort of a 4-star. I've got 1, 2, 3, and 4-star. Sort of my own system for keeping track of things that I like and things that I don't like. I really like this. It's 4 stars. It's also on sale. So it's a top priority that I purchased, before, December 22nd or something like that. So I'm going to select 2 tags for this particular thought. And now notice I've got the little tag icons. You can also customize your tag icons. If I want a special icon to appear for all of my 4-star items, I'll click on 4 stars, my 4-star tag. So I didn't even use a name. I just used stars. 1 star means I don't like it. 4 stars means I love it. So let's select a stock icon. Maybe I want a heart. There we go. Perfect. These are things that I really love. And now, once again, when I come back to my items I haven't purchased yet, I'm going to see right away that there's an item there that I really like. What's the other tag? I can mouse over it. It's a top priority. The sale is ending soon. So that's the thought that I'm going to click on. It's going to bring my attention to that thought. Tags are really, really great for just adding those additional attributes to your thoughts in the brain. And it's a special feature that in that you can attach multiple tags to a single thought. That's really important. And you can change tags from time to time. If I just decide, you know what, binoculars was a really silly idea, I want to replace this with, I like it, but I don't love it. I want to replace it with 3 stars or 2 stars, what have you. So you can easily just right click and switch. So I'll make that a 3-star item. Now it's got 3 stars. I really do love this. So I'm going to change it back again, 4-star item. And as you can see, you can also review all thoughts in your brain that have 4 stars. And it could be anything. And this is what I really like about the tags, is that typically these are items that would not be related to one another. My other 4-star items are a sawhorse that is really, really easy to build with scrap wood. I need some new sawhorses, and so I tag this as 4 stars. I love it. That's the model I need. It's very versatile. It's fantastic. The other one is O2 on the deck. Oh, that's a video on how to plank the deck of a cedar strip kayak. So a video that I'm really interested in watching for a project that I'm working on. So items that would typically not be related to one another in any way whatsoever. Binoculars has nothing to do with sawhorses, but they share a commonality. It's just things that I happen to like. So you can create tags in much the same way as you can a thought type. I'll save you the time and just show you that you can right click, type in a new tag, and add new tags that are appropriate to your business or to your interests. So create whatever types of tags you want for your brain to give further clarity or information to the content that you're adding. Now, I will share with you, just because I know it's coming up, why would you keep track of a 1-star, something you don't like? Why is it even in your brain? I get asked that a lot. And it's actually because sometimes it's information I still need, whether I like it or not. So I'm going to go ahead and click on my 1-star and show you that I've got 2 items in this. I've got a very large brain, but there's 2 items. Oh, and I feel bad because I'm highlighting a dentist's name. But regardless, it's not the dentist. I just don't like going to the dentist. So nothing against Dr. David Willis at all whatsoever. It's a medium priority, and there you can see it's a medium priority. So I need to make a dentist appointment, but it's a 1-star. I don't like it. So that's why I have that type of thing. Another one is this Bradford Beach Triathlon. I just had a bad experience. I like to do these sort of recreational triathlons in the summer with my kids. It just simply wasn't run very well. I didn't like it. And I want to remember that so I don't accidentally sign up for it in the future. My own organic brain would think, oh, this sounds nice and it's in my area. But I might have forgotten at that point that 5, 10 years ago, what have you, I did that triathlon and it wasn't so great. And I've got some notes what I didn't like about it when I go to that thought. So regardless, that is the basis behind having a 1-star, keeping 1-star thoughts in your brain. So let's get back here really quickly to my Christmas. I've got a few more features to share with you before we start getting into question and answers. First, something that I just now noticed, we got sidetracked. I was all the way over on talking about things that I don't like in my brain. I wanted to quickly get back to this Christmas thought. Notice that I have a pin for my Thanksgiving thought. Pins are nice little shortcuts to thoughts that you use frequently. Thanksgiving is done. I kept all of my valuable information there for prepping for Thanksgiving meal and resources down below. I can right click and remove that pin now. I want to make this a priority. So I right click and I create a pin for Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, let's make my brain a little bit more fun as well. I actually wanted to do this much earlier on in the class, but things just kind of got rolling. I want to give my brain a holiday theme. I'm in the holiday mindset. It's time to change the wallpaper. I've got my summer wallpaper there. It is time to update that. And it's a very, very simple change and something that some people don't realize they can easily do from time to time in their brain. There's a lot of settings to customize the application. Notice I'm running my brain in dark mode with a sort of darker background. I've got my own custom wallpaper. I am going to right click on the background and select brain theme. You can select from a variety of different themes that we have built in. So if you just want to, choose one of the brain themes, Mystic Lake, Polygon Gray, and so forth. And you can create your own custom theme and save them. I did that with my sort of blue wallpaper that you saw back there. And I call it Seafoam. There it is. So I can get right back to that Seafoam theme. And you can change the colors of the links and the colors of the backgrounds, the default colors for all the thoughts and different features and attributes of the brain. I'm going to click on the options tab and select a new wallpaper. I'll navigate down onto my C drive. I've got a wallpaper folder. And there it is. I've got this nice little pine cone wallpaper that I really like. So I'll double click, close that, and just in an instant, my brain has this wonderful, wonderful holiday theme that I really like. It really kind of gets me in the holiday spirit. And you can play around with those and find wallpapers. Not all wallpapers work. If it's a little bit too busy, the background's too busy, sometimes you can't see the links or read the text. So you want to find something that, that still works for you, but you can change those link colors or text colors, text backgrounds to work with light or dark wallpapers and so forth. Another feature to share with you, and this is coming back into features of the Brain 12, a more advanced feature that we are using now in the Brain 12. We refer to them as links and mentions. Links and mentions is a huge, huge update to the Brain technology. It allows the brain to start, you know, it's another way that the brain starts really working for you. And it reminds you when you have existing content in your brain as you're typing in the notes area. As you can see, some thoughts in my brain. Now, if I just type some gibberish, you notice it'll be underlined in red. That's a spelling error. But that's got these blue underlines as well. And a blue underline is a thought that I already have in my brain. So I've got a thought that's all about how to rebuild, reconnect gutters and so forth. We don't need to visit that. That's really boring. But regardless, the brain is helping you to realize I already have this type of content. And sometimes you don't need to see the link to that thought in your brain. So here, for example, every year I check out my tires and my engine because we're driving over the river and through the woods to grandmother's house we go. This year it'll be just for a quick visit, not for a whole dinner or overnight stay. But nonetheless, I check the tires on the car, check the engine, check the oil, do all those things. And I found a few issues and I made a car appointment for, this is my wife's car, and I'll specify that, tire appointment for the Honda Pilot on Monday, December 9th. Now, for my Christmas thought, I don't need a link that goes to my Honda Pilot thought that I have in this brain, but it's nice to have access to that. These are all the things that I'm getting done, my checklist, whoops, for things that I'm getting done around the holiday season. I'm gonna right click on this and I can either just activate to preview what's on my Honda thought. I already know what's there. I'm gonna link to this. So at any time as we're getting closer to Monday, December 28th, I can click and go to my Honda Pilot thought. I got my license plate info, how much lug nuts should be torqued to, my oil change history and so forth down below, and I can come then right back to my Christmas thought. So that links and mentions is a really, really great feature new to the brain. Also on the, here I'll right click and turn on my links and mentions that can be viewed in a footer below your note. So below the note in, once again, just the Brain 12, I can continue navigating through the Plex. So I can go back up to holiday and whoops, I'll scroll down underneath my attachment here. Oh, this is an attachment, so I can close that and go back to holidays. So my interests, my child thoughts, back to Christmas. And also you'll notice down below, 4 unlinked mentions. So wherever the word Christmas is showing up in another thought. So my kid's Christmas concert that happened last year on the 12th, scavenger hunt game we did back in 2019 and so forth. So anytime the thought name appears in another note, you can find that as well. And of course, since Honda Pilot is in a note, it's a linked mention, not just a mention. So I can click, there's my Honda Pilot thought. And I can see down below my backlinks. So Honda Pilot, it's linked. So it's a backlink to the Christmas thought. And here under Texas, Laura started using the Honda Pilot taxes for her work. So I'm just keeping track of when the Honda Pilot was used for work-related purposes and so forth. So helpful for me to know all of that information, additional context that the application is providing for you. As you continue to grow and evolve your brain. And the final component that I wanted to share with you today before we get into the question and answer session of the webinar is going back to that selection box that we saw earlier. We really cleaned up all of this, our Christmas gifts information. Let's say, my wife peeks over my shoulder and says, oh, I'd like to review these Christmas gifts as well. Well, of course, I need to delete the thoughts on her gifts out of that area of the brain, but regardless, I can copy areas of my brain and export them to documents or into another brain. So let's use those two examples. I'm going to control click. First, I'm just going to go to Christmas. I'm going to control click on the Christmas thought. I've added it to the selection box. Now I'm going to add to the selection box, but rather than control clicking one at a time, I'm 3 or 4 generations deep in some of these thoughts. That could take a while. So I'm going to click on edit and select the option to select related thoughts. So edit, select related thoughts. And now I want to select child. I don't want past Christmases. Every year I'll take everything that I've gathered. I'm going to rename this thought Christmas 2020, put it under past Christmases, and create a new Christmas thought for Christmas 2021. So past Christmases has years of Christmas history in it. I just want this thought and everything below. So no jump thoughts, only child thoughts. So I'm going to leave it checked for child thoughts. I'll include thought types and tags. And I want to go 5 generations down. I can go up to 20 generations down. That's a lot of content. I'll just go 5 generations deep and add that to my selection box. So Christmas and anything 5 generations below have been added to my selection box. The first thing I want to share with you is how to export this to a Word document. That's really easy to do. I can right click and select copy as text outline. A text outline is going to gather all of this information onto my clipboard, and let's see, I like to use Notepad++. So here's my Notepad++. It's just a text editor, but I right click and paste, and notice it captures all that information and it retains the hierarchy as well. So Christmas, gifts for Christmas, my family, outside family, shopping, there's holiday activities and everything that's going on below there, holiday cards and so forth. So it just gathered an outline, a very basic, simple outline of the structure of a project that I'm working on, or in this case, the holidays that I'm reviewing. Now let's take that one step further. So that's how we can just copy an outline of thoughts. I'm going to right click in my selection box and go down to just simply copying these 46 thoughts. So copy those 46 thoughts onto my clipboard, and that copies everything. The notes, the links, the attachments, the graphics that I have on thoughts and so forth. I'm now going to click on File and create a new brain. So new brain for Laura. She wanted to see all of my Christmas thoughts. So there, whenever you create a new brain, the brain selects a random wallpaper for you. I'll just make this light blue, easy to see. And now I still have all of those thoughts copied onto my clipboard. I can right click in the background and paste 46 thoughts. I'm pasting everything, the notes, the files, the attachments. So Laura wants to review, the prices of these, or family gifts, gifts for Christmas. Outside the family, she wants to see what the orange Mahjong set looks like. It's going to load that up right there in the content window of the brain. And actually, I'm not sure why it's blinking like that. I think it's Etsy, like pulls up a bunch of, yeah, it does. So you can just close those now and it stays open. So it pulls up this information so she can review that. Remember, I said that I didn't want Laura to see anything that I'm purchasing for her. So I'm going to go back to my family. And this one, that's a little Le Creuset oven thing, art by Jacques Pepin, and the vintage looking watch. Don't want her to see those. So I added them to the selection box. If I right click, I'll have the option to forget these thoughts. So forget 3 thoughts. They're still in the brain if a thought is forgotten. This is, once again, one of the more advanced, sort of little bit of a secretive feature. It's great time saver. You can bypass that. I'm going to hold down the Shift key. So I click on Shift and then I right click, and now I can delete these thoughts. They won't go into the brain's forgotten thought list, which is like the recycle bin for the brain. When you forget a thought, it's still there and it can be remembered and reactivated through the reports. In this case, I'm bypassing that. I know before I send this brain off to my colleagues, or oh no, I'm sending this one to my wife. Before I send her this copy of this brain, these 3 thoughts won't be there. So I delete those 3 thoughts. That's it, permanently deleted. I can still edit, undo until I close the brain and reopen, and then it's not cached anymore and that content is gone. And then finally, how do I share this brain with Laura? A couple of different ways that you can share a brain. You can simply click on File, back up to Brain Archive. When you back up a brain to a brain archive, it backs up, once again, the entire brain, all the thought types, the tags, file attachments, all that data is backed up and stored inside a single file, a BRZ file. That's a brain archive. Now you've got 2 options. The brain archive can be protected if you're backing up your brain for just archival purposes, in case you ever want to roll back to the version of the brain that you had in December or November. You can keep it password protected, so it's protected by your account information. Or I am going to allow everyone to see this. My wife uses the brain as well. She'll be able to extract this. So allow anyone to restore this BRZ into their brain. I'll click on backup. And I've got a nice simple file. I think I stored that. Yep, there it is on my desktop. So I can pull that up here. No, that's not the right file. Sorry. There we go. So there's the new Brain for Laura BRZ that I can send in an email or put it on a thumb drive and hand it off to for my wife to review. So a great way, that's one easy way to share a brain. If you know that other person has the brain software, there are many ways to share a brain. I can sync this brain up to the cloud. So I'm going to upload this to app.thebrain.com, and this brain can now be viewed online. If I want anyone to view this brain online, I'll wait till it's done syncing. So it's just syncing in the background right now. So I'll click on online and open up my brain access and sharing window. From here, I can say, all right, I'll allow public access. You don't need to log in as me to see this brain online. And I can send my wife that URL or send anyone that URL. Maybe the grandparents want to review a copy of my brain for gift ideas for the kids. They can just simply view it online and click through thought by thought. Everything links to Amazon pages where it can be purchased. It's perfect. So that's a great way to share a brain, again, with a non-brain user. They just have a URL. So I'm going to copy this. Here I've got some sample web pages that I was going to drag into the brain, but I didn't get a chance to today. But regardless, I'm going to open up a new screen and go to that URL, and here is my Christmas brain that's online. So once again, all of this information, my checklists, my file attachments, even icons and graphics that are attached to thoughts, they're all there and available online through that link. And then the final step, this is a much more advanced feature of the brain. This is where we get into team brain, collaborative. Collaborative brains are typically more business oriented, not necessarily theme oriented or holiday theme oriented, but regardless, if I have a group of people that I'm sharing different brains with and multiple editors, that's called team brain. And you can learn more about team brain on our website at www.thebrain.com. But then I have the option of sharing this brain. Chase, I know you're listening to today's webinar. I'm going to share my holiday brain with you in case you just feel like being my secret Santa and purchasing some gifts. I'll share that as reader with you. I'll save this information. And Chase will actually receive an email that says you've been given access to a brain. I shared it as a reader. I can right click on his name, make him an editor for this brain. But he'll have read-only access to this brain and be able to download his own local copy. Those are some much more advanced team brain features that the brain has the capability of with a team brain license. And again, not necessarily on topic for today's webinar, but an advanced feature nonetheless. So if you want to learn more about team brain, check it out on our website at www.thebrain.com. So I've shared with you a couple of great new features. Hopefully they're new to you or you'll find them useful. Modifying thought types and tags and changing thoughts and copying and exporting and so forth. with some of these advanced features, and even securing data and using backlinks and mentions within the brain. And with that, Chase, if you want to unmute and join me, let's see if anyone has any questions for us. So we'll enter the GoToMeet or the webinar Q&A session of today's webinar.
Absolutely. We got a couple of good questions here. Starting
Great.
off with, can you select multiple thoughts and create a document from them?
Yes, you certainly can. So I was actually selecting multiple thoughts and right-clicking over in the background and using these top three options. But notice there's a fourth one, create a document. Now this would be a huge document with 46 thoughts, so I'm gonna make this a little smaller. I want my Christmas checklist, so I'll control click there. Oops, control click on Christmas. My gift ideas, control click, and then I'll just control click those three, even though there's no content, I don't think, on those thoughts. So smaller selection, and I want to create just a document for, it's got my checklist, it's got some nice notes, some content for people to review. I right click once again, control click to throw them into the selection box, command click on a Mac, and this again is a V12 feature, create document. I can also just on a thought, there's a little icon you can see right here. I can export and create a document just out of a single thought. In this case, I've got a grouping of thoughts since that's pertaining to the question, create document. And basically, as you can see, every thought will be sort of the title. So gifts, Christmas, under that 2020 ideas and so forth. There's family outside, no content on those, so nothing shows up in the document. But this can be saved simply as a PDF or an HTML markdown file text. I'll save it as a PDF, and you can turn on and off the horizontal rules separating individual thoughts in the document. And I'll save that on my desktop. So you can see what that looks like. And there it is. So I've saved the thought name, becomes a big bold title at the top. I'm also using big bold titles in the notes themselves, and all of the content is there in the PDF. So a lot of different export capabilities there for a single document, PDF or HTML and so forth. Definitely play around with that.
I'd also like to know if it's possible to link to another thought in the body of a note.
Absolutely. Now you saw me do that in the body of a note. You saw me do that on my Christmas thought. You can see the Honda Pilot was selected, and when I right-clicked, I had the option to, I'll do another one, gutters. I can right-click, I can activate gutters, or I can link to gutters. But you can do this also with just a thought name. So if I just or it doesn't match. So I want to link mom and dad's package to the gifts thought. I can right click on there or control K. Let me select some text. I like to use control K. And I can create a new child thought, or I can start typing. And when I type, notice it's finding existing thoughts in the brain. So here's I actually have a separate thought called Mom's Gifts. So this is just ideas I get for birthdays or holidays. And I can double click and I've linked that to a thought that didn't show up as a link or mention. I hope I'm explaining that correctly. Just select the thought or select the text. And I like to use control K. Can you get there with a right click? I think you can. Yeah, insert thought or web link. That's control K. So just start typing in the existing thought name that you know exists out there that you want to link to. Send Christmas cards. I actually in the brain call it holiday cards, so I can type in. Yep, if I select the text, holiday cards. So double click, and I've linked this to my holiday cards thought. So a couple of different options there for you to choose those. And along those lines, I want to share with you, you can also link not just to other thoughts in this brain, I can link to other thoughts in other brains as well. Every individual thought has its own local URL and an online URL. So since I'm syncing this brain to the cloud, I can right click and select to copy the web thought URL. If it's a public brain and I want to tweet out, hey, everyone, explore my brain and check out what I'm doing for the holidays, great. This is not a public brain, it's private. But if from another brain I wanted to link into this area of the brain, I copy the local thought URL. And I go to my other brain. I'll just go to the baby Yoda thought just because I like it so much, and check out my day card. Should I add baby Yoda in the background? Baby Yoda. So just some fun stuff there. And I can Control V, and notice it says holiday cards. I just pasted Control V on my keyboard, and I click, and holiday cards takes me to another thought in another brain because I used the local thought URL. So that's another way to link to thoughts that aren't specifically in the same brain. And I see that we're over the hour now, but Chase, I just want to see if we've got maybe one or two more questions that we can demo.
Absolutely. Another good one. What is the preferred method to add an email to the brain?
Sure. So adding an email into the brain, a couple of different ways that you can do that. If you find an email that is really important to you, what I like to do is copy that text and paste it into the notes area. For example, I don't have Outlook open, but if I did, I would copy that message and simply paste it into the notes area. Emails, not every email that I receive, I need to have in my brain. I'm receiving emails from, Target, from Disney Plus, from FedEx, or, all these different things. I don't need all that. But if I receive an email, congratulations, you've purchased blah, blah, blah. I copy, you saw me do that earlier with the Colorado hat there's the Colorado hat. I simply copied and pasted, and for fun, they included a PDF in my Amazon email, so I brought that into the brain. But notice the email just isn't even there. Now, if you do want to archive that email message, with Outlook, you drag onto the desktop first and then into the brain. It's a two-part, we do integrate with Outlook, but it's a two-part process. Drag onto the desktop and then into the brain application. It archives a .msg file. And you can delete the original message and still have it in your brain. Or you can actually open every individual thought has its own containing folder. So if I right click and I go to the attachment grouping of options, I can open the containing folder for this thought. It opened on another. And I can drag a file into this directory as well. So once again, from Outlook, if I drag into the desktop and then into this directory, it'll save a .msg file. That's for Outlook. Gmail works differently. Gmail, I do have Gmail open, I think. Everything in Gmail, I do not have Gmail open. Everything in Gmail is a URL. So, let's see here, I've got a this old house email. So let's say I want to save this old house email. I want to archive, I'm not archiving. Here I'm under Baby Yoda, not related whatsoever, but I just want to show you the URL is unique in the Gmail that I've received. So I can drag and drop that directly into the brain. And then it's going to ask me to log in, or if I'm already logged in, it'll load. No, I'm already logged in. So it loads up that message directly there in my Gmail. So a couple of different options you have, but mostly I always recommend if you really have something important in an email, it's typically just a password or text or just some content you don't want to lose track of, copy and paste into notes. I think that's really one of the best options available. And so with time ticking, Chase, I'll give you one more question and then we'll wrap things up.
Sure, absolutely. A couple people would like to know how to create a pinned thought so that you're able to reference it more easily.
Absolutely. I really love pins in the brain. And I was on a webinar with Harlan Hugh, the CEO, founder, creator, the brain behind the brain. He's the guy. And he had some nice insight into pins. And I really never thought of it this way. And a pin is sort of a keyhole into what's most important into this brain. Nothing speaks more about a brain than the pins. And you can see my pins are Christmas, a kayak, a cedar strip kayak that I'm building. It's my passion, cedar strip boats, and my weekend checklist, getting things fixed and done around the house. That's pretty much me. If you were to ask someone that knows me, what does Matt do? He likes to build things and fix stuff around the house. And I like Christmas. So a pin is a great way to get to a keystone thought, an easy access link to areas that you use most often. So that's what I'm focused on most right now. So I've created my Christmas pin. If I'm now starting to look towards the new year and I wanted to pin that, you simply right click on a thought and select to create a pin. So I've got a nice little shortcut to that New Year's thought there as well. And when I find that I'm no longer frequenting a thought, I right click and I remove the pin. It doesn't delete the thought. As you can see, Christmas, it's still there, just removes the shortcut. So I change out my pins. You saw me to do it today with the Thanksgiving pin. I change my pins quite frequently depending on what I'm focused on. And in my business brain, for example, I've got pins that I never change. I'm always going to a particular thought because it's an important area of the brain for me and for what I do. In this particular brain, I've had this weekend checklist pinned here for probably the past maybe 5 to 10 years. I never change it. I always kind of want to know, what's the plan for this weekend? Is it just recreational, we're going camping, or do I have a bunch of stuff I need to fix? Right now, it's a bunch of stuff that I need to fix. So it's just a checklist over on the right of projects that I need to do. And they come and go. I go to this pin quite often in my webinars, and there's always some new content there, and then also some content that I haven't fixed yet. So pins are really great, and definitely take advantage of those and use them. You can have a whole string of pins across the top of the brain. And when you sync this brain online, your pins will be in the web client as well as on the mobile apps as well. There's a button on the mobile app that's the icon of a pin, whether you're on iOS or Android, and you can easily get to those frequent thoughts. So thank you everyone for joining me today. It's always really a pleasure to do the Brain 202 and show some of these more advanced capabilities of the Brain application. I enjoyed today focusing on some of the advanced V12 features. If you want to know more about version 12, you can download a beta copy of the Brain 12 from our website right now. There's no release date, in case you're wondering. I'm sure Chase was answering that question quite often. No release date quite yet, but if you do purchase a license of the Brain 11 now, you are entitled to a free upgrade to the Brain 12 whenever it is released, regardless of what that date is. No date announcements yet, though. And of course, we're always available at support@thebrain.com. If you want to know about even more advanced features, such as things that I didn't get into today, exporting into JSON coding language, or more advanced features, or just another component of the brain that I didn't get a chance to touch on, please send a note into support@thebrain.com, and we're happy to answer any questions that you may have. So thanks everyone for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your week and of course your holiday season. And as always, enjoy your brain. Thanks everyone. Bye.